Hello. Hey everyone, it's me, MattCMG, and welcome to another episode of Internet Idiocracy Mini, where instead of taking a deep dive on one big topic, we take a more lighthearted approach to a smaller topic. Now today's topic is actually something I've wanted to talk about on this channel for a very long time, and I'm only getting around to it just now because it's becoming increasingly more prevalent in my life, and that topic is none other than good old nostalgia. Now for those of you with a subpar understanding of the English language, nostalgia is defined as, quote, a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal associations. See, that's how you guys know I'm a big brain individual, because I just read you a generic definition off of Google. Big brain. For those of us that were born pre 9/11, nostalgia probably isn't all that unfamiliar of a feeling to you, and even if you're one of those post 9/11 fetuses, you've probably experienced this as well to a lesser degree. You know, we all have things, moments, and experiences that we have fond memories of and that we'd like to go back to, but simply can't due to the linear flow of time. So the best we can do is try to recapture that magic as close as we can, with the knowledge that we can never go back to that time. So why don't we take advantage of this vulnerable emotion? Now, it is great to feel nostalgic about something, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, of course, but ever since the internet became mainstream, nostalgia has been weaponized in many different ways that are oftentimes very predatory and just generally cringe. So today, I wanted to go through a few examples of this kind of thing that I've seen in my travels throughout the internet and giving my thoughts on them. So let's get weird, let's get wild, and batten down the hatches as we prepare for a strike from weaponized nostalgia. The fucking nuclear blast is coming, and it's not the one that we want. Fuck. Over the years, I've witnessed various predatory ways in which nostalgia is used online. These predatory practices range from things as relatively innocent as using nostalgia to get upvotes on Reddit or likes on Twitter, to more nefarious things like big media corporations using the names and likenesses of old properties to sell you on a new reboot or streaming service or something like that. Let's start with the least harmful and then work our way up. For starters, I'm sure we've all seen posts around the internet like if you remember this show, only real ones remember this thing. If she doesn't know what this old thing is, she's too young for you, bro. We've all seen them, and as cringe as they are, I think we've all fallen for them at some point or another. I will not lie to you and tell you that these kinds of posts don't occasionally bring back some repressed memories, especially with stuff that has fallen into obscurity, right? Now, the thing that pisses me off about posts like these, specifically in terms of obscurity, is when they're like, who remembers this show? Under the impression that it's some like obscure piece of media when it was really just something that was extremely popular and that most people actually do remember. So, like, somebody will post that caption and then show a picture like fucking Generator Rex or something, you know? Something that's not that obscure and was quite popular in its day and that people definitely remember, but you're treating it as if it's like some obscure fucking lost to time piece of media. These posts are perfectly harmless, but they annoy the shit out of me because they're ultimately pretty pointless. You know, asking who remembers this doesn't do a whole lot other than get you a few cheap likes or upvotes or whatever the fuck. Very rarely do posts like these ever promote any actual discussion, with the exception of like lost media stuff or something. They don't exist to actually discuss these old nostalgic things in any meaningful way, just to farm likes from people feeling nostalgia. One variant of these that I cannot stand are the ones with the wording along the lines of, if you remember this, then your childhood was pretty lit, as if to say that people who didn't grow up with this thing had worse childhoods. Obviously, a lot of these are pretty tongue-in-cheek, you know, nobody actually thinks this, but it brings in this whole idea of people glorifying their childhoods. Let me put it this way, right? If the quality of your childhood was defined exclusively by whether or not you watched Teen Titans or some shit, then clearly your childhood was never actually that good to begin with. It's this weird way of making your childhood and your nostalgia competitive, like some weird ass like, my nostalgia is better than your nostalgia shit. It's like really fucking weird. I am significantly more okay with those tweets that'll have a group of like 4 old properties with the caption like, one has to go, or alternatively, one stays, the rest go away forever. In terms of promoting discussion, these variants have my respect. You know, you get a lot of people trying to explain their stance on which thing was the worst or the best, and sometimes it can be pretty insightful, and it rarely gets toxic, at least in my experience. The problem with all of these though is that it's all just really fucking cringe. Like why does it matter who remembers a certain thing? Why do we have to argue over what thing is better or worse than some other thing? Just enjoy shit. It's not that fucking hard. And you know what else isn't hard? Me. But the other thing that's not hard is making Nostalgia-bait posts like these in the first place. All you have to do is take a screenshot of a show or the first result on Google Images, or if you're really daring, you find a clip, you post it, and then boom, instant likes. This gets even worse on YouTube, and though that requires a little bit more effort, it's still an extremely easy way to game the algorithm. The nostalgia meta is kinda busted, not gonna lie. Let me ask y'all something, right? You ever been browsing YouTube and you get suggested videos like, insert show here moments I think about a lot, character being iconic for 10 minutes straight, you know, all that kind of shit? All these videos are just compilations of the show or character in question out of context, and while sure these compilations can be pretty funny if you know the show or the character, it's kind of predatory like we've been talking about. These videos sometimes have millions of views, and while a lot of the people making them likely aren't making any money off of them because of copyright stuff, That's still a lot of fucking views. And sure, some people might be making them innocently just to show their love for a show or character, and that's completely fine. But then the corporations come in and do exactly what they do best and ruin shit for profit. You guys know this. You know, if you're subbed to this channel, you definitely know this. I'm an Avatar guy. I'm a massive Avatar fan, as you all know. And I think that the official Avatar YouTube channel is one of the worst offenders of this, truthfully. They aren't the only ones that do this, but all they do is compile episode clips under a specific theme, such as, you know, best Toph moments or best fight scenes or whatever, and then just play clips from the episode with almost no editing. It's the same premise as what fans have been doing, except it's immediately worse because 1, they own the clips, so they're making really easy money off of this, and 2, it's 10 times more cringe now because it's coming from a big corporation trying to act hip and cool. How do you do, fellow kids? These compilations are the result of marketing people, marketing executives or whatever, picking the most marketable clips as opposed to a fan with a genuine love for the show compiling their favorite clips. You know, you get a lot of really underrated clips in some of these fan-made ones. The corporate ones run the concept into the ground too. Well, they'll make like 10 of these fucking things a month with just slightly different topics, so you see a lot of repeat clips and it gets really old really quick. It's simply just cringe, and is yet another example of how corporations ruin internet culture by trying to join in on it, and it's all done by preying on people's nostalgia. Oh, and by the way, the official Avatar YouTube channel completely ripped me off, but I'll talk about that in a future video. Good old corporations, shut the fuck up. And saving our worst for last, the worst example of people abusing other people's nostalgia is with reboots and revivals of old stuff. This kind of delves into a whole other topic regarding streaming services and Hollywood and shit, but keeping it restricted to just nostalgia, I'm pretty mixed on the whole thing. While not all reboots or revivals are inherently bad, such as DuckTales or Samurai Jack, there are some of these things where you can tell that they didn't have a single reason to bring the thing back, aside from the obvious, which is to capitalize on people's nostalgia. Prime example, and I've talked about this on the channel before, but the Zoe 101 reunion. That show is at like peak nostalgia right now. Like a lot of the people who watched it as kids are now like adults and are like remembering it fondly, so they brought it back for a reunion special. But because they knew that they would have eyes on it, they used it as an opportunity to inject other random garbage like TikTok stars or whatever the fuck into it where it doesn't belong at all. They're bastardizing what the original property was for the sake of money and clout as opposed to doing things in a way that's clearly not pandering, and I do not use the word pandering lightly. What's even weirder to me is when it's incredibly obvious that nobody was asking for a reboot or revival, but they just fucking do it anyways. Like nobody was asking Pizza Hut to bring back the Noid. In fact, people hate the Noid, but you know why they brought him back? Because people remember it even if it's not very fondly. Either that or they really wanted to combat Papa John's use of the N-word by giving us an N of their own. Truly the ally we need in these divisive times.
What a fucking...
But I think that the absolute bar none worst instances of corporations capitalizing on your nostalgia is references for the sake of references. Now let it be known that this kind of thing can be done well. For instance, Scott Pilgrim, in fact a lot of Edgar Wright's films for that matter, use a lot of referential humor, but it works there because the joke is never, hey, do you remember this? It's usually a lot more clever than that. They usually require you to actually get the reference on a deeper level. Same can be said about shows like Community as well, for example. But as Tony Soprano once said, remember when is the lowest form of conversation. You know what's cringe about movies like Ready Player One or Space Jam 2? It isn't the fact that they're packed with pop culture references, it's that they do it so tastelessly. Like what does Ready Player One have to gain by having Overwatch characters in the background, right? It's nothing. It's just there for a cheap, oh, I recognize that thing. The Space Jam 2 trailer is insanely tasteless with its references because all they're doing is just taking any character Warner Brothers has the rights to and injecting it into fucking Looney Tunes land with zero regard to what they're referencing. Yeah, let's just take the rapists and murderers from Clockwork Orange and put them in the background of this cartoon basketball movie for children. That'll totally go over well and was definitely necessary for the movie to feel complete. Even good shit like Stranger Things is guilty of this, where they are so in your face about it, like, hey, remember the 80s? You all like the 80s, right? Nothing bad ever happened in the 80s! These corporations and big movie studios and whatnot do not care about what they are referencing or why they are referencing it. They just know that people will recognize it and that it'll sell things, or at the very least create a buzz online with those garbage articles and videos like 10 epic references you missed in the Space Jam 2 trailer. These corporations want you suckling the milk from their nostalgic teat, and if you look at all the soy boys and consumers out there, you'll see that a lot of them have never been weaned off and continue to fall for this shit hook, line, and sinker. Star Wars fans blow their fucking load whenever Disney announces the return of fucking Clit Shitzo or whatever fucking obscure character they decide to bring back that week. It's fucking, like, stop falling for this shit. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with being nostalgic about stuff. You know, for me, I've lately been feeling very nostalgic for the early 2010s, and this is kind of clear if you've seen some of my older videos. I've been going about that by rewatching some old Nick and Cartoon Network shows that I remember from around that time period, and it's kind of fun. But something that I have noticed in doing that, however, is that I kind of ruin things for myself and I lose the nostalgia, if that makes any sense, right? Maybe it's just me, but if I indulge in something too frequently, it loses the magic, and feelings of nostalgia just turn into general enjoyment. You know, for example, right, I like Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. You know, great song. I remember listening to it in the car as a kid, so when I rediscovered it years later as a teenager, it was very nostalgic for me. Fast forward to now, where this song has been in my playlist for years and I listen to it constantly, I feel fucking nothing about it anymore. You know, it's still a great song and I still like it, but it doesn't give me that same nostalgic feeling that it once did. So, to prevent this type of thing from happening to me more often, I purposefully wait long stretches of time before re-experiencing something again. You know, if we're talking about like a TV show or a movie, for instance, I will wait long enough for me to forget what happens so that when I rewatch it, it's new and fresh again while still retaining its nostalgic properties. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not saying you guys have to deprive yourselves of joy like I do, but you know what they say about too much of a good thing. Nostalgia is fine when done in moderation, but unfortunately now we live in an internet age where it can be milked and manipulated just like anything else. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug, and people are using it to manipulate you. So stay woke, motherfuckers. But that's all I have for y'all today. I know this episode was very much like an old man yells at cloud type beat, but if you liked my glorified unhinged rant, then be sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe for more bullshit like this, and consider pledging to my Patreon to get some cool rewards for supporting the channel. I've been MattCMG, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Don't copyright claim me, please. Bargain for yet. I've been dying to tell you anything you wanna hear, cause that's just who I am this week. Lie in the grass next to the mausoleum. I'm just a notch in your bedpost, but you're just a line in a song. Notch in your bedpost, but you're just a line in a song. Drop a heart, break a name. We're always sleeping in and we're sleeping for the wrong team. We're going down, down in an early round. And sugar, we're going down swinging. I'll be your number one with a bullet. A loaded guy complex, cock it and pull it. We're going down, down in an early round. And sugar, we're going down swinging. I'll be your number one with a bullet. Loaded guy complex, cock it and pull it. That was cringe. You need to stop. You need to perish.